Hare Krishna. So we'll begin with our prayers. Om Ajnanatimmirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuru Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Vadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Pada Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamsha Shri Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sri Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarukya Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nitinamine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharani Nirvishesha Shanyavadi Pashatya Deshatari Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaurabhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, so welcome everyone. We are discussing from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3. We are on chapter 25. So last time we discussed how Shaunakadi rishis, after hearing the wonderful story of renunciation of Kardamuni and how Kapiladev, he stayed to be with his mother. So as always happens between the audience and the speaker, they are always in sync. We discussed last time. So here, Shaunakadi rishis, they express their eagerness. And we have heard that Kapiladev described his mother Devahuti, the wonderful science of Sankhya. So please tell us about that. So Sud Goswami says that actually Maitreya, Vidurji also asked the same thing to Maitreya Muni. And then he continued the description, what happened later. So after Kapiladev left, Kardamuni left. So Devahuti, she remembered the words of Brahmaji, that your son is the Supreme Lord himself, and he will deliver you from the entanglement of this world. So thinking like this, she went and approached her son, and she asked that Nirvinna Nitaram Bhuman Asat Indriya Tarshana. I am disgusted with this material world. And we heard last time discussed that this disgust is not conducive for practice of bhakti. This disgust is more suitable for those who are practicing Jnana Marga, cultivating knowledge of this world. And that knowledge is basically towards the knowledge of impersonal Brahman. So therefore, she says that I am really disgusted, and you are my transcendental eye. You are such Chakshu. And you are like the torch. You can please dispel the darkness of ignorance which is there in my heart. And then we discussed till verse number, we were on verse number 11. So we'll recite this verse 11 again. Tam tva gataham sharanam sharanyam swabhritya samsara taro kutharam Jigyasyayaham prakrite purushasya namami sadharma vidam varishtham. So now she's saying, I have taken shelter of your lotus feet, O my Lord. Tvam tva gataham sharanam. I have taken your shelter. Sharanyam, you are the person who is worth taking shelter of. Sharanyam. Swabhritya, a person who takes your shelter, who is your devotee, what do you do for him? Samsara taro kutharam. You become like an axe. And this very strong material existence, this tree of material existence is cut by your mercy. Samsara taro kutharam. So this samsara is like a tree. Bhagavad Gita 15th chapter also describes asanga shastrena dirhena chitva. Please cut this knot of this material existence by being detached from this world. Asanga shastrena dirhena chitva. So that's what she's saying. So abhritya samsara taro kutharam. Jigyasyayaham prakriteha purushasya. So now jigyasa, I am doing an inquiry. What is the relationship between Prakriti and Purusha? Between man and women, between spirit and matter. Namami Sadharma Vidam Varishtham. You are Sadharma Vidam Varishtham. You are the greatest of all the transcendentalists. So please tell me. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur describes that what she is doing is, she's telling, I should ask you and no one else with a desire to know about Purusha. Purusha means the living entities in this material world, and about Prakriti, from which the material existence arises. Because you are the best among the knowers. You are Sadharma Vidam Varishtham. Sadharma means those who, Sadharma is the process of devotional service. Vidam Varishtham, you are the best of all. Whoever knows the process of bhakti or the process of cutting this tree of material existence, you are the best of all. So therefore, please dispel my ignorance. Cut off this tree of material existence. So it may look very selfish that she is saying that I want liberation. So please help me in becoming liberated from this material world. And similarly, it seems that, by other people, they say all these spiritualists, they are so very selfish. They are doing everything for themselves, not doing everything for the world. So actually, Srila Prabhupada would always say that when we practice devotional service, when we save ourselves, then we can save others also. So charity begins at home, as they say. First, we have to save ourselves. Janma sarthak kari kar paropkar. When we come out of this material existence, then we can save others also. A person who is himself bound, how can he liberate others? That's what Gajendra is praying to Lord. Madrik prapanna pashupasha vimokshanaya muktaya bhuri karunaya namolayaya. Oh my Lord, you are muktaya. Because you are mukta, therefore you can liberate me also. So therefore, a spiritualist, it may seem that they are very selfish. But we have to be selfish in the beginning so that we can help others. Taking care of one's own spiritual life, that may look selfish for people. That, oh, you are not doing anything for the society. But it is just like when, a few years back, there were terrorist attacks. And in JJ, so many people were being brought, injured. And if somebody enters the first year MBBS, and all these students are studying, and if he says, "क्या कर रहे हो आप लोग? इतने लोग मर रहे हैं और तुम लोग बैठ के पढ़ रहे हो." Go and help them. So what they'll say? Yeah, they'll say that अगर हम जाएंगे तो और ज़्यादा damage हो जाएगा. Because they don't know how to treat. So similarly, to help people, we should know how to help in a right way. So therefore, although devotee is asking all these things, it may look that it is very selfish, but actually that is the beginning of spiritual life. First, we have to perfect our lives, then we can help others. So therefore, Srila Prabhupada writes that devotee wanted to cut the tree of material entanglement, and therefore she is approaching a suitable weapon. So then Maitreya Muni continues that hearing the desire of Devahuti, his mother. So the desire of Devahuti, it may seem that it is very selfish, but Maitreya Muni says that the desire of Devahuti is uncontaminated desire. It is Niravadyam ipsitam. Niravadya means it is uncontaminated desire. Why it is uncontaminated? Because it was inspired by the law. Lord inspired Devahuti to ask all these questions so that the world can be benefited. So it may look very selfish, but the Lord works through devotees so that the entire world can get benefited. And that's the case, how Arjuna was bewildered. Parikshit Maharaj was bewildered. He put the snake on the shoulders of Shamik Rishi. So whenever Lord wants to teach the world or help the world, he does it through his devotees. As they say, if the mother-in-law teaches daughter-in-law by chastising her daughter. So that's how Supreme Lord Kapiladev is now inspiring his mother to ask all these questions. And these questions are apavarga vardhanam. Vaitramuni says the questions of Devahuti are apavarga vardhanam. They are very conducive for liberation. So therefore, Kapiladev, he smiled that, oh my mother, you're my mother. How can you be in Maya? And you are asking as if you are in Maya, but actually you are not in Maya. I'll just make you as the instrument and I'll teach something which will benefit the entire world. That is the plan of Kapiladev. That's why he has put his mother Devahuti into such bewilderment. So now 13th verse. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Yogadhyatmika Pumsam Mato Nishreyasaya Me Atyanto Paratirgyatra Dukkhasya Cha Sukhasya Cha. So he's saying, now Kapil starts speaking. I will tell you that Adhyatmika Yoga. So the question of Devahuti was, what was the question of Devahuti? Please take me out of this material existence. I want to be liberated. Enough of this material existence. So therefore now Kapil Dev, he says, I will describe you this Adhyatmik Yoga. What is this Adhyatmik Yoga? That is the highest yoga system. Mato Nishreyasaya. Nishreyasaya means highest. Nishreyasa, which is for the ultimate benefit of any living entity. And this will cause what? Because what was Devahuti's concern? She wanted detachment. Nirvinna nitaram bhuman asadindriya tarshanat. I am disgusted. I want to be detached. So therefore he says, Atyant uparati, you will get extreme detachment. From what? Sukhasya cha, dukhasya cha. From all distress and from all happiness. So that is the proposal which I am giving to you. You wanted a system by which you can get liberated and detached. My proposal is practice Adhyatmik Yoga. And then he says that Adhyatmik Yoga consists of 3 paths, 3 types of paths: Bhakti, Jnana, and Ashtanga. All these 3 paths, they constitute Adhyatmik Yoga. So Adhyatmik Yoga means that yoga which differentiates body and soul, Atma and Sharir. So there are 3 yogas by which one can be, one can realize that I am not this body, I am soul. Bhakti Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and Ashtanga Yoga. So Prabhupada writes, of course, one may say that he is not disturbed by material happiness, but he does not know that just after one indulges in sense gratification, material miseries will come for sure. Anyone knows which verse in Bhagavad Gita says this? If you do sense gratification in this world, the pains and miseries are guaranteed. Yehi samsparshaja bhoga dukkha yonaya evate. If you engage in sense gratification, it is the womb of misery. Adyantavanta kaunteya na teshu ramate budha. Therefore, an intelligent person does not engage in material sense gratification. In the 8th chapter. 5th chapter. So Prabhupada writes, this is the law of the world. If you engage in sense gratification, miseries will come for sure. Today or tomorrow, it will come. One becomes pregnant, it is pregnant with misery. Any happiness of this world is pregnant with misery. It will come for sure. Dukkha yoni, it is a womb of misery. So Kapila he describes that there is a Adhyatmic yoga, and of these three Adhyatmic yogas, I consider the practice of Bhakti Yoga to be the best. So therefore, he says, first I'll explain that ancient yoga system which I consider to be the best. And I put the 14th in the list. 14th verse is there. Right. Tamimam te pravakshyami yamavocham puranaghe rishinam shrotu kamanam yogam sarvangane punam. O most pious mother, O Anaghe, Anagha means sinless. O most pious mother, Tam imam te pravakshyami. I will explain that most ancient yoga system. Yam avocham. I have explained this in the past also. Just like Krishna tells Arjuna. I have explained this science to sun god in the beginning of creation. Imam vivasvate yogam proktavan aham avyayam vivasvan manave praha manurikshva kavi abbravi. Here also he is saying the same thing. I have explained this in the past also. To whom? Rishinam shrotu kamanam. They were eager to hear. Some sages, they were eager to hear. So Lord explains the science of devotion only to people who are interested in hearing it. That's what Krishna tells Arjuna. Don't tell this knowledge to somebody who is envious, who is sinful. Explain this knowledge only to devotees because they will appreciate it. Don't explain it to others. That's why we distribute Bhagavad Gita, but it is like open secret. A devotee can only understand how to unlock the secrets of Bhagavad Gita. A non-devotee, he will learn some life lessons from it. How to manage things, how to overcome anger, how to become peaceful, but how to connect to Krishna, that he will not be able to do. That is the real purpose of Bhagavad Gita. So Kapil Dev is saying, I have explained this knowledge to the sages in the past. Rishinam Shrotu Kamanam. And this yoga system is Sarvanga Naipunam. It is most practical and serviceable in every way. And that is the process of Bhakti Yoga. Sarvanga Naipunam, it is Susukham Kartum Avyayam. It is always blissful. We may not feel like that, but it is actually blissful. हम लोग को लगता है इतना प्रॉब्लम ऑलरेडी है लाइफ में, वहां की भक्ति का भी प्रॉब्लम ऐड हो गया है, चैंटिंग भी करना है, डिवोटीज के साथ रहना है. But actually it is blissful and we have to just keep faith in the process. So over a period of time we'll experience the bliss also, and of course we experience bliss sometimes, but it is a very short-lived many times. But we have to keep hearing. That's why we keep hearing Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, Bhagavad Gita, so that we can develop that faith. Knowledge is very, very important to make our faith very strong in Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, we'll become sentimental devotees. सब अच्छा चल रहा है, तब तक मैं chanting कर रहा हूँ. Things are wrong in my life. Oh, why Krishna is doing it to me? This too. So Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita and Chaitanya Charitamrita, the philosophy of Krishna consciousness sustains us. Siddhant bolia jeev chitte nakar valas iha hoite Krishna lagi suhrid manas. Therefore, Krishna is giving this yogam sarvanga naipunam. So Prabhupada writes very interesting. He says, Lord does not manufacture any other yoga system. चलो भाई अपनी माँ के लिए नया कुछ बनाते हैं. No, that's how Lord works. He always tells the process which is already existing. He doesn't manifest or invent any new path. In Bhagavad Gita also he says the same thing in the 13th chapter. Rishibhir bahudha gitam chandobhir vividhai pratak brahma sutra padaishaiva hetu madhbhir vinishite. All these, I have spoken this knowledge This knowledge was spoken by the sages in the past. Rishibhir bahudha gitam. I will speak to you the same knowledge which the sages have spoken. भगवान को बोलने की क्या जरूरत है? Everything is coming from him only, right? He is the Vedesha Sarvai Rahamyava Vedyo. Still he is telling. I will be speaking to you this knowledge which was spoken by the sages in the past. Here also Lord is saying the same thing. I have spoken this knowledge to the sages in the past, and I will speak the same knowledge to you again. Prabhupada writes in the purport. Here we find that although Kapil Dev is Lord himself and is capable of manufacturing a new doctrine, he nevertheless says, I shall just explain this ancient yoga system which I explained to the great sages. And then in the 15th verse, he says, in this yoga system, mind is the pivot. 15th is not there, right? Cheta khalvasya bandhaya muktaye chatmano matam guneshu saktam bandhaya ratam va pumsi muktaye. So Prabhupada gives a little different translation, not exact word to word translation of this verse, but he gives the theme of the verse in the translation. So in this verse, basically Kapil Dev is saying mind of the jivas binds him up by bad association. Chetana means mind. The mind binds the living entity, and muktaye cha atmano matam, mind liberates the living entity also. Where else Krishna says this? Mind is the cause of bondage and liberation. Controlled mind is the best friend. Uncontrolled mind is the worst enemy. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Bandhuratma atmanastasya yenatmaiva atmanajita. Controlled mind is the best friend. Uncontrolled mind is the worst enemy. So here also Kapil Dev is saying, mind of a jiva binds him up by bad association and liberates him by good association. If we stay in good association, we'll be liberated. If we stay in bad association, we'll be bound. Guneshu saktam bandhaya. And based on the association, one becomes attached to the modes of nature and then gets bound. And ratam va pumsi muktaye. And if one develops attachment to the Lord, he gets liberated. So it says mind associates with the bad association. What is bad association? Association with the modes of nature. Bondage. Mind associates with good people. What is good association? Association with Lord. That is liberation. So Prabhupada writes in the translation that the stage in which the consciousness of a living entity is attracted by the three modes, that is called as conditional life. And the stage in which the mind is attached to Supreme Lord, that is called as liberated life. Very simple understanding. So therefore, Kapil Dev is saying, in this Adhyatmic Yoga, pivot is the mind. Everything revolves around how we are engaging our mind in Krishna's service. So at present, our mind may be so restless. That's why Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, say Adav, Tasmat Tvam Indriyani Adav. In the beginning, try to put your senses in Krishna's service. That's what we do. Although our mind may be somewhere else, but still we, come in front of the Lord, take darshan of the Lord. We hear the pastimes of the Lord. We take prasad, engaging the senses. And slowly, the senses become purified, and then the mind also becomes attracted. So that's how mind is the pivot, because how you engage your mind decides the destination. Next destination is what? What you think. What is 8th chapter Bhagavad Gita, 5th verse? Antakale cha mameva smaran. It depends on smaran, not kirtan muktva. Antakale cha mameva kirtan muktva nahi, smaran muktva hai. Because at the last moment of life, what stage we will be in, what will be able to speak or not, move or not, who knows? But our mind is always active. So the whole process of Krishna consciousness is to train our mind so that we can remember Krishna at the time of death. Otherwise, all the other devotees, they may be chanting and telling us, oh please, Prabhu, chant. Remember, our mind is somewhere else. So that's how our whole process of bhakti is to engage our mind in Krishna's service. Make our mind devotee. That is the greatest non-devotee we are staying with. सबसे बड़ा non-devotee के साथ हम लोग association कर रहे हैं 24 hours a day. So therefore he is saying, mind is the pivot. So if the mind develops attraction to the Lord, it gets detached, liberation. And if the mind is attached to the things of the world, that is bondage. So that's how the cause of rati, Chakravarti Thakur writes that cause of rati is attraction for the Lord. Cause of rati for the Lord is bhakti. Only by the process of bhakti one can get attracted. Not by jnana, not by yoga. That is, not so easy. Process of jnana and yoga, they are not so easy to practice, especially in Kali Yuga. Even actually, all the other paths, they depend on bhakti. Even a person is practicing jnana yoga, he has to practice bhakti also. So in jnana yoga, there are various limbs of jnana yoga. One is, Kapila Dev will describe in the 27th chapter. Mai bhavena satyena. One has to accept that the form of the Lord is real. If jnanis, they say, no, Lord does not have a form. That means they will not get the result of their activity. Mai bhavena satyena. And then Kapil Dev in another place says, Shrutta samhritaya chiram. The jnani has to hear about me. What is this? This is bhakti only, na? Hearing about the Lord, meditating on the form of the Lord, that is bhakti. So jnani ko bhi wahi karna hai. And Ashtanga yogi also does the same thing. Meditation in the form of the Lord in the heart. So therefore, all these jnanis, yogis, they have to practice bhakti to get the result. If they don't get bhakti, if they don't practice bhakti, they will not get the result. So that's how we have to understand that bhakti is the easiest path. We don't have to think, should I do Ashtanga yoga also? Should I practice Jnana yoga also? Because maybe bhakti is not the best way, because people who are attached to the process of Jnana and Ashtanga, for them, bhakti is so simple. इतना simple करने से भगवान मिल जाएंगे. खाली एक जगह बैठ के मुंह हिलाने से भगवान मिल जाएंगे. खाली हरे कृष्णा बोलेंगे तो भगवान मिल जाएंगे. Will realize Krishna, will be liberated. For them it is too simple to accept. मतलब कुछ तो करना पड़ेगा ना, कुछ तो आसन, योगा, some austerity. मतलब इधर तो खा पी के एकादशी में भी 56 भोग, कल एकादशी है तो एकादशी में 56 भोग खा रहे हैं और बोल रहे क्या चल रहा है. On the other hand, Jnani is doing all tapasya, austerity, no eating. That's what happened with when all the devotees, they entered Jagannath Puri from Bengal. So all the devotees, they come every year to Jagannath Puri to be with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for Rath Yatra. So Pratap Rudra Maharaj has newly become a devotee. Naya devotee bane. He doesn't know the devotee style, devotee lifestyle, how devotee works, what are the typical activities of devotees. So he is seeing that all these devotees, they are entering Jagannath Puri, and he says, Tirthera vidhana hoye shauro uposhan. A person, a devotee, if he goes to Tirthasthan, what he should do? He should shave his head and do fasting. And these devotees, Tirthera vidhana hoye shauro uposhan. Etachhadi says, these people, they are not doing any tirthasthan, any uposhan, they are eating annapan, they are khai annapan, they are पेट भर के प्रसाद खा रहे हैं लोग, क्या चल रहा है? तो सार्वभौम भट्टाचार्य से इस श्लोक, ईश्वरेर परोक्ष आज्ञा शौर उपोषण प्रभुर साक्षात आज्ञा प्रसाद भोजन. In the indirect way, Lord has told through scriptures that one should do fasting and shave head. But that same Lord is standing in front of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. वो क्या बोल रहे हैं? प्रभुर साक्षात आज्ञा प्रसाद भोजन. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is feeding all the devotees as if he has 5 hands. So if Supreme Lord is feeding, so who is that foolish person who will not take advantage of it? So that's how, we have to understand that, process of bhakti is susukham kartum abhyayam. Visheshe Shri Haste Prabhu kare pariveshan etala bhachadi kon kare uposhan. So if Mahaprabhu is serving himself, who will do fasting? So therefore, for all these jnanis and yogis, practice bhakti is very difficult. Because they can't have faith in the simple process of bhakti. So our whole process is to understand and have faith in the simple things which we are doing in the process of bhakti. And for us, chanting is like it is a routine activity. So therefore, many times we don't put so much of our heart in chanting. ठीक है, chanting कर लेंगे, कर ही रहे हैं chanting, उसमें क्या है, रोज कर लेते हैं. So we have to understand this is the most important activity of the day which we do. So I have to chant, say I want to chant, to I like to chant. तो ये स्टेज पे अभी देख लीजिए हम लोग कहाँ पे हैं. चैंटिंग करना पड़ता है या फिर चैंटिंग करना है, या फिर मुझे चैंटिंग करना अच्छा लगता है. तो एटलीस्ट सेकंड तक तो रहना चाहिए ना. चैंटिंग करना अच्छा लगता है इज अ वेरी बिग थिंग. The process of bhakti is the easiest way, and therefore Lord is telling Mother Devahuti that this is the easiest way and this is the best way. So that is how he says mind is the pivot. And then he says how to understand that the mind is liberated. So then he says 3 verses, 16, 17, 18. He describes how mind is liberated. 16th is there? Okay. Yes. So in this 16th verse, he's saying that the attached mind has 2 qualities, kama and lobha, desire, lust and greed. So the lust and greed, they are typical characteristics of a mind which is attached. I want more, lust and greed. And the result of lust and greed is aham mameti. Things, this is me, and things, all these things are related to mine, ahamta and mamata. And when one is cleansed of these impurities, then he loses all the attraction for the material world. Then he transcends the stage of so-called happiness and distress. He is not elated when he is happy, and he is not so sad when he is in distress. The whole process of spiritual life is, it starts with this. That is the first instruction Krishna gave to Arjuna. What is that? Anyone knows? First instruction which Krishna gave to Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita. Dukkheshu, नहीं वो तो बहुत आगे हो गया. That is also the same thing, but the verse is 2.14. Matra sparshastu kaunteya sheet ushna sukha dukkhadah agama apaino anitya tams titikshasva. Just tolerate, O Arjun, happiness and distress, heat, cold. So a person who is free from this lust and greed, he is not so much troubled by the problems, and he's not so elated by the happiness of this world. Adukham sukham samam. Dukkheshu anudvigna manaha sukheshu vigata spriha. He is not disturbed when problems come, and he is not elated when he is in bliss. That is the basic understanding, basic level of a liberated soul. Sama dukkha sukham dhiram so amritatvaya kalpate. That person who is equipoised in happiness and distress, he is eligible for liberation. Prabhupada writes, that is the difference between conditioned life and liberated life. Conditioned life means कुछ happiness आया बहुत खुश हो गए, दुख आया बहुत दुखी हो गए. But a liberated soul is not so much disturbed by the happiness and stress. And to tolerate happiness is more difficult than tolerating distress, because there are more chances that we will forget Krishna when happiness comes. Because in pains, we naturally take shelter of Krishna, but in happiness, we forget Krishna. That is how. And then he says at that time, this soul, liberated soul, becomes really effulgent, transcendental. He understands that I am part and parcel of the Lord, and I am a liberated soul. And Prabhupada in the purport, he describes that Mayavad philosophy is bogus, because soul is always individual. That's what it is described. Never fragmented. Animanam akhanditam. These two words come there. Then, how does the mind reach this stage? Yahan tak pahunchna kaise? And the process is by the process of devotional service. Jnana vairagya yuktena bhakti yuktena chatmana paripashyatyudasinam prakritim cha hataujasam. Jnana vairagya yuktena, by the practice of knowledge and renunciation. Bhakti yuktena, not dry jnana, not dry renunciation. That means that knowledge and renunciation which is not endowed with bhakti. That is called as dry jnana and dry vairagya. No bhakti, but bhakti yuktena. Bhakti should be there in the process of jnana and vairagya. If bhakti is not there, then it will not help us develop devotional service. If you are just liberated, thinking I am detached from the world, I don't care for anybody in this world, then how will you care for Krishna? We know the famous story. One person, his wife died, and he went to a sadhu and says, "Oh, sage, I want to take sannyas. Why do you think you are qualified to take sannyas? My wife died and I didn't even cry." So what did that sage say? If you can't cry for your wife, how will you cry for the whole world? How will you cry for the Lord? So bhakti should be there. Jnana vairagya yuktena bhakti yuktena chatmana. So in that position, paripashyati means that in that condition one sees in right perspective, everything in right perspective. And then prakritim cha hata aujasam, material nature acts less powerfully upon it. At present, material nature is acting too powerfully on all of us. More than half of our energy goes in fighting with our anarthas, fighting our senses. और फिर ऐसा पिट के मार खा के थोड़ा कुछ बच जाता है, उसमें हम अपना चैंटिंग कर लेते हैं 16 माला कैसे तैसे करके. Yeah, that is a sadhaka, right? Keep on struggling and fighting with the material nature. But the more we develop jnana and vairagya by the process of bhakti, this material nature will act slowly, less powerfully. We will be able to meditate on Krishna more. Currently, when we pray to the Lord, maximum amount of our prayers is what? remove my anarthas, remove my lust, anger, greed, pride, envy, and जो थोड़ा बहुत टाइम बच जाता है उसमें हम लोग थोड़ा चैंटिंग के लिए भी थोड़ा टेस्ट देना है. That should be other way around. Most of our prayers should be asking for taste for holy name, taste for Hari Katha, taste for pastimes of the Lord, Rupa, Nama, Rupa, Guna, Leela. So that's how slowly it happens. How it happens slowly in the future verses. This is a very wonderful chapter, so we'll go a little slow. In the future verses, there is one example which Kapil Dev will give. Jarayatiyashu ya kosham nigirnam analo yatha. Jarayati ashu ya kosham, just like the fire burns the firewood slowly, similarly, a fire of devotion burns our anarthas slowly. One should not expect miracles in Krishna consciousness. आज भरती और कल चक्रवर्ती नहीं होता है. I have become free from lust, anger. अभी बस lust चला गया, anger थोड़ा सा बाकी है, वो भी चला जाएगा. No, it will not happen like that. So we have to just be patient with ourselves. Don't condemn ourselves. If we are not able to come up to our expectations of devotional service, you don't have to condemn ourselves. Because many times we don't go into the guilty consciousness so much that we can't put our heart in the practice of bhakti. Being humble, what is the difference between humility and inferiority complex? Inferiority complex means false ego frustrated. Humility means false ego rejected. False ego frustrated means I cannot do anything, I am so fallen. False ego rejected means I am small but Krishna is big. Krishna is the biggest. He can do anything. That is true humility. Not that I am so fallen. The consciousness is, focus is myself. But in humility, focus is on Krishna. So therefore, we have to depend on Krishna when we are beaten down by our anarthas and by material nature, and keep on practicing bhakti. So Prabhupada writes, as the contamination of the germs of a particular disease can influence a weaker person, similarly, the influence of material nature can act on conditioned soul, not on liberated soul. Somebody is very strong in his immunity, then all this contamination will not help, will not affect him. We know in this COVID times, this principle of immunity very nicely. Prabhupada, Chakravarti Thakur writes in the purport that this Gyan and Yoga, they assist Bhakti in liberation. Without Bhakti, they cannot get liberated. That's how. For mixed devotees, Gyan and Yoga is also required. But for pure devotees, Bhakti is sufficient. They don't have to cultivate separately all these Gyan and Vairagya, because Jnana Vairagya comes automatically. Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita Janayati Ashu Vairagyam Jnanam Chayadahet. Jnana and Vairagya has to come. If it is not coming, that means there is some problem in our practice. If we are still attached to our old practices, old ways, old friends, old habits, that means there is some problem with the practice of devotional service. Then from 19th verse onwards, 19th in 2 verses, Kapil Dev describes the glory of bhakti. Because in the 15th verse, Kapil Dev said, if the mind is attached to the Lord, then it will be liberated. How the mind will be attached to the Lord? The best process to attach the mind to the Lord is bhakti. And that's it, he'll say in the next verse. Na yujyamanaya bhaktya bhagavatya khilatmani सदृशो अस्ति शिवः पंथा योगिनां ब्रह्म सिद्धये न युज्यमानया bhaktya, apart from bhakti, except bhakti, which is Bhagavati Akhilatmani, which is most suitable for realizing Lord. Bhakti is most suitable for realizing Lord. And apart from bhakti, there is na sadrisho asti, iske jaisa aur kuch bhi nahi. There is nothing which is auspicious like the path of bhakti. Na sadrisho asti Shiva. Shiva means, what is the meaning of Shiva? Auspicious. Shiva means auspicious. So there is no path which is as auspicious as bhakti for yoginam Brahma Siddhaye, those practitioners who desire Brahma Siddhi or relationship with the Lord. For them, the best path and the most auspicious path is bhakti. Nahi atanya Shiva pantha vishata samsrita viha vasudeve bhagavati bhakti yogo yato bhavit. In the second canto, first chapter, Shukdev Goswami said the same thing. Nahi ato anya Shiva pantha. There is no path which is more auspicious than the path of bhakti. Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yogo Yato. That is the faith which a devotee should have. इससे बढ़कर कुछ है ही नहीं. There is nothing which is greater than the path of bhakti. Because sometimes people start thinking, I think this is not working for me. I think I should go to some other place, some jnana, some yoga, थोड़ा ये भी कर लेते हैं, ये बाबा के पास चले जाते हैं, ये इनके पास चले जाते हैं. No, bhakti is the most suitable and most auspicious path. Prabhupada writes that knowledge and renunciation are never perfect unless joined by devotional service. If bhakti is not there, आराधितो यदि हरि तपसा ततः किम, नाराधितो यदि हरि तपसा ततः किम, नांतर यदि हरि नांतर बहिर यदि हरि तपसा ततः किम, अंतर बहिर यदि हरि तपसा ततः किम. If you are worshipping Krishna, then what is the use of tapasya? And if you are not worshipping Krishna, then what is the use of tapasya? So that's how bhakti is the best way to practice, to develop connection with Krishna. Prabhupada writes, when there is devotional service, then the question is where to offer that service. सेवा करनी है, किसकी सेवा करनी है? भगवती अखिलात्मनि, भगवान की सेवा करनी है. And when seva happens, then automatically two things come up, knowledge and renunciation. Jnana and vairagya comes for sure. So therefore, he's saying of the three paths, bhakti, jnana and yoga, bhakti is the best. There should be no doubt about it. Okay, how does one get bhakti? Bhakti milegi kaise? Bhakti best hai. No, so far, couple days going very systematically. First established, there are three paths, bhakti, jnana and yoga. Out of these three, bhakti is the best, most auspicious. Now he's saying how to get bhakti. Only cause of bhakti is association of devotees. Prasangam ajaram pasham atmanam kavayo viduhu saeva sadhu shukrito mokshadvaram apavritam. Prasangam ajaram pasham. If we are attached to material things of the world, that is the ajaram pash. That rope never becomes old. The ropes of desire keeps on becoming newer and newer and more stronger. Just like the knots. If there is one knot in the rope, you can open it. If there are multiple knots, it is very difficult to open. You have to cut it. So therefore, this rope of material entanglement becomes more and more stronger with every attachment. Every relation in this world makes that rope more and more powerful and strong. Ajaram Pasham, and all these learned people, they know it very well. Atmanam Kavayo Vidu. So therefore, what they are saying, anyways, we have to attach to somebody. Get attached to someone. We cannot stay without attachment. Better dovetail that attachment propensity and get attached to devotees. Saeva sadhushu krito. That same attachment, when it is applied to the self-realized souls with attachment with devotees, moksha dwaram apavritam, it will open the doors of liberation. The more we are attached to devotees, the more will be detached from the material world. And attachment to devotees means how this devotee will help me in my Krishna consciousness. Not that ye thode rich devotee, इनके साथ थोड़ा attachment बढ़ाते हैं. Not for that. Attachment to devotees is only for increasing Krishna consciousness. Apart from that, there is no need, because one devotee was giving an example. All the living entities, they are like pen drives. And if two pen drives, they think हम लोग share करते हैं information, होगा? कैसा करना पड़ेगा? There has to be a laptop in between. So two living entities cannot be happy in their relationship in this world. Only if Krishna is there, then they can somehow stay connected. Otherwise, all the relationships of the world will give pain, will give misery, if Krishna is not there. Saeva sadhushu krito mokshadwaram apavritam. Devahoti told the same thing to Kardamani. Sangoya samsrite hetu asatsu vihito dhiya saeva sadhushu krito nisangatvaya kalpate. Same thing she also said. She knows all this. It is not that unko malum hi nahi hai. She knows all that. But many times we know things. As devotees, 6 महीना 1 साल के बाद तो सब इन्फॉर्मेशन, सब फिलॉसफी पता चल जाता है. ऐसा कुछ भी नया नहीं है हम जो सुन रहे हैं. तो कुछ भी नया नहीं है. There is nothing new after 1 year of spending time in Krishna consciousness. सब फिलॉसफी सुन लिया, सब स्टोरी सुन लिया, सब पास्ट टाइम, सब रियलाइजेशंस, सब सुन लिया. But when we are in difficulty, we need devotees to remind us of whatever we know already. We may be knowing all that, we may have heard all that, but in times of difficulty, we need devotees to remind us. That is how, it happens with Sanatana Goswami also. He was about to commit suicide because his whole body was full of boils. Pus was coming out. As he was coming from Vrindavan, he drank some contaminated water, and then he developed all these boils, and then he was thinking, what is the use of this body? And now I'm not able to do anything to serve the Lord. So let me go to Jagannath Puri and throw myself under the cart of Jagannath and die. So Mahaprabhu says, oh Sanatana Goswami, this body is not your property, this is my property. I have planned so many things, using your body. I have planned that I'll use your body to do so many things. So Sanatana Goswami ko abhi kuch mahino pehle Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has instructed for 2 months. Supreme Lord himself instructing a person for 2 months. And then he goes into depression, thinking I am of no use. I want to commit suicide. Then Lord has to again counsel him, remind him that what is your purpose. I have planned so many things. This body is not your property, it is my property. You cannot, abuse anyone else's property. So therefore, all this knowledge we have heard many times, but when we are in difficulty, we need devotees. So therefore, we should have at least one or two devotees who know us and who will come on their own and tell Prabhu, Mataji, what is the problem? Which problem hai kya? You're not so happy, you're not coming, what is happening? If there is nobody whom we can share our heart with in Krishna consciousness, that means there is a problem. This Guhyam Akhyati Prachiti is very important. So therefore, Prabhupada writes, attachment cannot be killed. It has simply to be transferred. We cannot stay without attachment. Attachment for material things is called material consciousness. Attachment for spiritual thing is, attachment for Krishna is Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada writes, it is clearly stated here that when we simply purify the consciousness from material to Krishna consciousness, that is liberation. And then Prabhupada says, if people have no attachment to Krishna, then they attach themselves to cats and dogs. So therefore, better to get attached to devotees. Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Shastra Koi. What is the next line? Lava Matra, Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Siddhi Koi. That's what Narad Muni tells in the first canto, how he became devotee. First, devotees gave their mercy. Mahat Kripa comes first. It's like Prabhupada asked, one devotee asked Prabhupada, Prabhupada, what was our qualification that we got Krishna consciousness? Prabhupada, what he said? I gave you. You had no qualification. He was thinking, Prabhupada boling, Arey, you are so qualified, Itna achhe gun. You had no qualification. I made your qualification. So it is all mercy of the devotees. Mahat Kripa vina kona janme bhakti nahe. We cannot get bhakti if we don't get Mahat Kripa. So by Mahat Kripa, then Mahat Seva. When devotees show mercy, then the living entities, they serve the devotees. Chalo bhai itna kripa kar rahe hain to seva kar. And by doing Mahat Seva, one gets Agyat Sukriti. And from that Agyat Sukriti, one gets Shraddha. And then the process starts. Bhajan Kriya, Narti, and all. That's how, in the beginning, the devotees seek conditioned souls to give mercy. Kidhar hai bhai, unko kripa dena hai. And after one gets some kripa, develops some shraddha, then the person should seek devotee association. That is how. So then he says, she is thinking, okay, how will I identify who is a sadhu? Sadhu kaun hai? Who is a devotee? Then next 3 verses describe who is a sadhu. Titikshava, 4 verses. Titikshava karunika. Surida sarvadehinam. Jat shatrava shanta. Sadhava sadhu bhushanam. Titikshava, tolerant. Karunika, merciful. Surida sarvadehinam, friendly to all. Ajat shatravaha, no enemy. Shanta, peaceful. Sadhavaha, he abides by scriptures. These are the characteristics of a devotee. Not that dhuti kurta pehne hai, sadi tilak lagaye hain, kanthi mala pehne hain, wo devotee. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, Mather tilak galer kanthi yahi to kalira chela. दिखावा करने में एक्सपर्ट हैं, ना? So a person may be dressed as a devotee, but if he is not behaving as a devotee, he is not a devotee. So therefore, all these are the parameters. कौन devotee कहलाने के योग्य है? अभी समझ लीजिए इसमें से हम लोग कितने लोग devotee कहलाने? Prabhupada, one person came to Prabhupada and said, Prabhupada, this devotee is doing not following this devotee is not chanting, this devotee is not coming for a program, not Bhagavad. Prabhupada said, wait. First of all, tell me who is a devotee here. Currently, only I am a devotee in ISKCON. Rest everyone, their identification is Das, Anudas. But just to make things simple, हम लोग devotee बोल देते हैं उनको. But devotee means what? इतना बड़ा लिस्ट है. Titikshava, Karunika, Surida Sarvadinam, Ajata Shatrava, Shanta, Sadhava, Sadhu Bhushanam. So that's how a devotee is. And then he says, okay, what is primary characteristic of a devotee? Mai ananya bhavena, ananyena bhaktim kurvanti ye dridham, mat krite tyakta karmanas, tyakta swajana bandhava. So the primary characteristic of a devotee is what? Ananyena bhavena, without any deviation, bhakti kurvanti. He practices dridha bhakti. He practices determined, staunch devotional service. Mat krite, for my sake, tyakta karmana. He gives up all the results of his activities. Tyakta swajana bandhava. He gives up his family relationships also. He gives up his family, friends, everything. At least he's not attached to them. He may not do it, practically giving up the family and friends, but his consciousness is not in his family and friends. Okay, we'll stop here. We'll continue next time from this 22nd verse. Hare Krishna. Anybody has any questions?
You said first we have to deliver ourselves and then others. So how in
It goes hand in side, together.
It will take a long time.
Yeah. So first we have to start working on ourselves. Not that we'll be liberated. उसके बाद जब तक मैं ना पूरा भगवत गीता, भागवतम, चैतन्य चरितामृत पढ़ लूंगा नहीं, उसके पहले preaching नहीं शुरू करूंगा. हो गया फिर. No, not like that. Whatever we know, we start applying, and then at the same time tell also. If we are not applying and then we are just telling Bhagavad Gita लो, Bhagavad Gita, जीवन सुधर जाएगा, तुम्हारे सुधर नहीं. जीवन सुखी हो जाएगा, तुम तो दुखी दिख रहे हो, पता नहीं, मुझे बोला गया था ऐसा, अभी तक तो हुआ नहीं. If we are not applying,
it goes hand in hand. Whatever we know, we have to tell others.
Yeah.
Bhakti means constitute to the differentiation of devotee, then the Navada Bhakti starts.
Yeah, Mahat Kripa. First, devotee shows mercy. हम लोग को कौन डिवोटी, मतलब हम लोग सोच के आए थे क्या इस्कॉन में आऊंगा और मतलब एटलीस्ट आई कैन से अबाउट माय सेल्फ, हम लोग तो प्रसाद खा खा के डिवोटी बने कॉलेज में. सो सम डिवोटी केम एंड इनवाइटेड, चलो यार प्रोग्राम होता है, चलो यार थोड़ा अच्छा प्रसाद मिलता है, चलो थोड़ा अच्छा मंदिर है. We got attracted, and then Mahat Kripa, that is Mahat Kripa, and then based on that Mahat Kripa, we did some Mahat Seva. चलो भाई मैं भी थोड़ा मंदिर में कुछ सेवा कर देता हूँ, थोड़ा प्रसाद डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन कर देता हूँ कभी कभी, anything. And then by doing that Mahat Seva, and we may not be doing it consciously. Just like if somebody says ये लो इसको वाले अच्छा खाना खिलाते, उसको मालूम भी नहीं है प्रसाद है, but what he is doing, unconsciously glorifying prasad. What is Agyat Sukriti? Conscious glorification. अरे इस्कॉन मंदिर अच्छा क्लीन रहता है, ये लोग अच्छे से सजाते हैं भगवान को, अच्छा फेस्टिवल मनाते हैं. It is nothing to do with bhakti, but उसको अच्छा लग रहा है देख. So Agyat Sukriti, and then because of that Agyat Sukriti, then Shraddha, then Bhajan Kriya, then Sadhu Sangamor, and then Bhajan Kriya, and then everything follows.
Prabhuji, Ashtanga and Vairagya is similar?
Ashtanga Yoga is one of the 4 yogas: Bhakti Yoga, Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and Ashtanga Yoga. 4 प्रकार के योग हैं. योग मतलब, what is the literal meaning of yoga?
It's a part of Jnana Yoga.
Yeah. For the beginners, we can say yoga means to connect. So to connect to the Lord, there are various ways. Bhakti also, Jnana, Yoga, Karma. And Ashtanga and Vairagya means when you get detached from the world. So all these processes, apart from karma also leads to detachment, but in the long run. But for jnana and yoga, first thing we have to do is leave the family. घर छोड़ना पहला फर्स्ट क्राइटेरिया टू प्रैक्टिस अष्टांग योगा. योगी बनने के लिए सबसे पहले क्या करना है? घर छोड़ना है. ज्ञानी, स्टार्ट कल्टिवेटिंग नॉलेज. ना भागवतम भगवत गीता पढ़ने में हाल खराब है. What to speak of all the other Vedas. So the best is made for Kali Yuga people. And that will give Gyan and Vairagya automatically. So what we are doing? We are cultivating knowledge. And we have become detached from so many things. Chai, coffee, onion garlic, movies. और क्या क्या छोड़ दिए हैं सब जो भी.
Bhakti is the mother and Jnana and Vairagya.
Yes. वो उसमें आता है ना, भागवत महात्म्य में आता है. भक्ति gives rise to ज्ञान and वैराग्य. जनयति, जन्म, उसका जन्म देती है. भक्ति से जन्म होता है ज्ञान और वैराग्य का. Okay. Mukti is a servant. Mukti mukulitanjali sevvyate sman dharmartha kama gataya samaya pratisha. He stands in front with folded hands if somebody becomes a devotee. Okay. So, Hare Krishna. Since there are no questions, we'll stop here.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes, Mataji.
Yes, Prabhuji, I just have one question. Can I ask, Prabhuji?
Yeah.
Prabhuji, like Arjuna and Devahuti case, like Arjuna was also lamenting and Devahuti was lamenting, and Arjuna, for Arjuna, Krishna spoke or the Sankhya Yoga, Gyan Yoga, Karma Yoga, and ultimately leads to Bhakti Yoga. Here also we see Kapil, Lord Kapil giving the same. So for purposefully Arjuna went into the means God made Arjuna into lamentation, like illusion. Here also Devahuti, she is also pure devotee. Means she is daughter of Manu, she is wife of Karna Muni and mother of Lord. So here also we can say that Lord purposefully made her Hindu illusion lamentation for this conversation.
Yes, that's what we discussed in the beginning, right? So Kapil, when Devahuti asked all these questions to Kapil Dev smiled, thinking that, oh mother, how can you be an illusion? But I have to give this message of Sankhya. So I have made you the instrument. I want through you all this knowledge to be given to everyone. Okay, so that's how Lord makes his own devotees the way instruments, just like Parikshit Maharaj was made instrument to be given Bhagavatam. So here Devahuti, through her, Kapil Dev is giving Sankhya philosophy. That is how Lord works. Okay.
Yes, Prabhuji, thank you very much.
Okay, so we'll stop here. Any other questions anybody has?
One quick question. Hari Bol. Sorry, Prabhuji. Sorry, forgive me for my voice. I just wanted to check and ask you that in the 9 stages of devotional service that we have, do we ever reach the last stage?
That we don't have to worry. So we have to just focus on. If we worry about the goals, that then we are fruitive workers. When Krishna says karmanyeva adhikaraste, we should know that our adhikar is our sadhana bhakti. And Krishna, that is his right when to give prema bhakti. So we should not be concerned so much about that, whether will I go back home, back to garden in this life or after 10 million lives. That is in Krishna's hand. That is Krishna's job. We have to be just concerned giving our full in the path of sadhana bhakti. And then based on seeing our endeavors, Krishna will reciprocate. And we cannot demand Krishna, na? I want bhakti and I want bhakti now. Prem bhakti chahiye mere ko abhi ke abhi. Not possible. So that is the whole process, our, as I think who was saying, I think one of the senior sannyasi, Bhakti Maharaj, somebody was saying, Gaur Govind Maharaj, he was saying that our mission perpetually remains unfinished, unaccomplished, because a pure devotee never feels that he has attained Krishna. It's like Goswamis. He Radhe Brajadevike Chalalite He Nanda Suno Kuta Shri Govardhan Kalpapada Patale Kalindi Vande. They are also wandering. Goshanta Vitisarvato Brajapure Chedair Mahavivalo. So they are also thinking, where is Krishna? Where is Radharani? So that's how we have to understand that. When we will become, when we'll come to the stage of prema bhava, that only Krishna knows. So we don't have to, be so much concerned with that. We have to be concerned about the current things. Am I becoming detached from this world? Do I like to chant more? Do I like to speak about Krishna more? Do I like to, hear about Krishna more? So if that is happening, that means we are on the right path. And in due course of time, for sure, these things will come for sure. It is not just a, a illusory thing which is there only for some people. जो पता नहीं ऊपर से आते हैं उनको ही प्रेम भक्ति देते हैं. No, it is not like that. Bhagavatam is full of such stories of people who were, ordinary sadhakas and they were given prema bhakti. Even, Haridas Thakur made a prostitute into a pure devotee. Parama Mahanti, what is that verse? Says, Prasiddha Vaishnavi Hoila Parama Mahanti, Bada Bada Vaishnavatar Darshane Te Anti. And she became such a great devotee that big devotees were coming to have her darshan. So it is not just, ठीक है वो गाजर हलवा, गाजर लटका है भाई होगा कुछ तो होगा उधर कुछ है ही नहीं. No, it is not like that. So the whole process of our devotional practice is to have faith in the process. That's why we keep hearing that. And we have to really sincerely pray to Krishna, because Krishna is a person and he's standing as a deity form to reciprocate with us. So we have to be intense in our practice. Intense doesn't mean we roam around with a grave face, not smiling, not laughing, not like that. Intense means whatever I do, I am always conscious of why I am doing it. I am present in my practices of Krishna consciousness. I'm present in my chanting, present in my hearing, present in my service. I am present, not that I am distracted. So that is called intense. So then, and when Krishna will award Prem Bhakti, that is up to Krishna. We should not be so much concerned about that. If we're just thinking, हम शुद्ध भक्त बनेंगे कि नहीं, हम भगवत धाम जाएंगे कि नहीं, that is not conducive for the practice of bhakti. We should not be so much concerned about, our when will I become pure devotee?
Right. Thank you. Thank you, Prabhuji. So nicely explained. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Okay, Hare Krishna. So we'll stop here. Thank you very much. Prabhupada ki jai, Granthra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.
Thank you, Prabhuji, so much. Thank you so much, Prabhuji.